Brandon Ingram hits a game winner over Pascal Siakam. The Raptors win their 9th in a row. This team, folks, this team. Let's go to the film room.
The only thing that's originally filmed is that Scottie. And I've studied older films and tried to figure out how I got that impression. I was getting these right in the cutting room.
The unique thing about film is an art form
exactly.
is the editing.
As we've said many times before, clutch time is Brandon Ingram time for the Toronto Raptors. And what they love to get him going off of is in that pinch post area, as we've mentioned before. This is a cross screen from Scottie Barnes to be able to pop out in this area. Pacers concede the switch there, so Mathurin is the guy who's actually fighting over. Actually, Siakam hasn't taken over as the primary defensive assignment yet. Mathurin is the guy guarding him right now. This is also an option screen, so you see Jakob here providing an option, if you will, to step up and get here in the middle of the floor. Ingram decides instead to get into the mid-post area, and a really great job of just really quickly rising up, not being too indecisive about it, making that shot. Okay, so exact same play here. This time they do concede the switch, and it is Siakam who guards him and takes him one-on-one. Now, Siakam, in my opinion, a much better defender than Ben Mathurin. I would say an elite defender, and a type of defender who is long, athletic, quick, the perfect type of guy you would put next to Brandon Ingram. So the Pacers didn't send doubles at Ingram. We've seen in the past in the Hornets game, in the Cavs game, in the Sixers game, in all of the clutch games. I believe this would be clutch game number 9 for the Raptors this season. In all of the clutch games that they've played, so many teams are sending doubles towards Brandon Ingram. The Pacers opted not to. Why? Because they have Pascal Siakam. And so on this possession, Ingram tries to take Siakam one-on-one, doesn't get anything, and so they're forced to reset. It's quickly who gets the ball, and truthfully, it's feast or famine when it comes to quickly isolations here. He's being guarded by Nembhard, one of the best defenders in the league, and that's a tough shot. So different action here, right? No more pinch post setup. This time they want to run a pick and roll with Jakob Poeltl and Brandon Ingram. Potentially get Jay Huff onto Ingram and get him cooking. But again, Siakam slithers through that screen, sticks onto him. But a very good job, and this is why Brandon Ingram is so elite, an insane job of creating separation. One step back move created this much separation for Ingram to knock down this shot. The exact same play, the next possession. This time instead, again, Siakam slithers through. Ingram instead tries to draw a foul, and he doesn't get the call, and it's a good defensive possession by the Pacers. All right, now you see the pressure amping up from the Pacers side of things. So pick and roll once again between Jakob and B.I. Again, Pascal does a great job of fighting over this screen, going one-on-one with him and B.I. He creates the separation, just misses. That's a good look. That's a good look, good opportunity, good possession. Unfortunately, B.I. just missed. Don't worry, he makes up for it in a little bit. They see that Pascal is doing a good job on Ingram, and they quickly go to a Scottie pinch post possession instead. That seems to be their second option in clutch situations when Ingram isn't able to get it going. And so pinch post situation for Scottie, he's got Mathurin on him. Scottie has done a great job of all night of being physical, getting to the free throw line and going. They send a double on this because Mathurin cannot guard Scottie Barnes one-on-one in the post. Raptors get the defense in rotation. Quickly gets a pretty good shot here, but misses the floater. One-on-one quickly versus Siakam. That is an easy mismatch for Pascal, who just bumps him off of his spot. Nice up and under, and a beautiful recovery and block by Jakob. Unreal defense on that possession. And then the play I'm sure all of you guys have seen a million times. I know I've watched it a bunch of times. I've got a couple of cool different things to break down for you. So the shot clock is over. The clock is winding down. They've got 6.7. And you can see Scottie here, right here, telling Ingram to go, to not waste time, to just go with it. Don't worry, we'll get a stop. And so Ingram listens. Scottie's telling him, go quickly. and they don't send a screen. There is no pinch post area that they're worrying about. This is one-on-one. Darko Rajakovic has not called a timeout because he trusts Brandon Ingram in these type of situations. They would have gotten it to him in the first place anyways. BI steps up over top of Siakam. Bang. Unreal. And shout out to Glorilla celebrating as well. What a moment for Raptors fans. What a way to cap off 9 wins in a row for your Toronto Raptors. Brandon Ingram with the game winner over Pascal Siakam. Very poetic in that regard. And man, what a finale to what was a sluggish game. As we welcome you inside the film room, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. We appreciate you guys as always. This was so look, the game itself for the first half was pretty ugly. The Raptors, shout out to Keeks here. I saw her tweet it, but they had an effective field goal percentage of 41.4% in this game. That would be the lowest of any team that has won this season. That is how bad the Raptors were offensively. Part of that, it's kind of like a two-part function here. One, I thought they missed RJ Barrett's driving ability. I thought they missed his ability to get downhill. I thought, against especially this Pacers team that has some long athletic wings, they missed a guy like RJ who could get into the teeth of the defense. Getting into the restricted area was an issue for this Raptors team outside of Scottie Barnes. We'll get to that in a second. But overall, they really struggled offensively in this game outside of a few stretches. So they finished 39% from the field. They were 5 of 26 from 3, 19%. What really helped them was getting to the free throw line. They shot 27 free throws. They made 22 of them. Scottie Barnes was a big part of that. We'll talk about that in a second. But overall, this game, so the Raptors, sluggish start. Then they went on an insane run. I believe it was 27-3 from the end of the second quarter to about the first 4 or 5 minutes of the third quarter, where they went off. A lot of that was because of Jacoby Walter, who we will also get to. And they fueled this run through just grinding it out, playing more physical, matching the physical intensity of this Pacers team, who honestly is better than their record. They are absolutely better than what are they? I don't know, 2-15 at this point, 3-15, something like that. They are 100% better than that. Look, this is a team that just went to the NBA Finals. Yeah, they're 2-16. This is a team that just went to the NBA Finals. They are now slowly starting to get healthy. Ben Mathurin is back. Andrew Nembhard is back. Obviously, Pascal Siakam is in the lineup. TJ McConnell is back in the lineup. And TJ was great in this game, too. They are slowly starting to get their rotation back. They are a better team than their 2-16 record. They obviously have the experience of a finals team, even despite Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner no longer being there. So this is a good team. And the Raptors, I think the fact that they are playing clutch basketball, if you will, this is now their 9th clutch game. This is very good experience for them as they head into, the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup, which they have officially clinched a home game. They will host a quarterfinals NBA Cup game on either December 9th or 10th. We will get more clarity on which one of those days it'll be after Friday's Cup games. And so they will play games like this, where it's muddy, where they can't get things going offensively, where the opposing team has the length and the athleticism to match their length and athleticism. And for, there are going to be teams that have a guy who can guard Brandon Ingram one-on-one, like the Pacers do with Pascal Siakam. And by the way, Pascal did all of that while having 5 fouls. So, of course, Ingram was always going to be aggressive in trying to hunt those fouls. Some of those shots you saw was because, Pascal had 5 fouls. He wanted to foul him out. That's why this was a more physical, more interesting game than perhaps your regular, Raptors playing a cellar dweller type of game. This wasn't them playing the Wizards. This wasn't them playing the Nets. This was them playing a team that just made it to the NBA Finals, albeit decimated by injuries, but the bones of that team still exist. The fight of that team still exists. The physicality of that team still exists. And truthfully, the length and athleticism of that team still kind of permeates, even despite the fact that they don't have Obi Toppin and Aaron Nesmith right now. They are better than their record. And so credit to the Pacers for making things difficult on the Raptors. And I actually think those were the two parts that made this Raptors offense struggle. First part, missing RJ Barrett, big time. They needed his drives. They needed his ability to create attention off of his drives. You know, he was at one point this season, he was number one in the league of the amount of help he got on drives. That creates so many opportunities for other guys. But the second thing is the Pacers are particularly well matched for this Raptors team just because of their length and athleticism. That's why it puts so much more of a focus on Scottie Barnes and what he does, because Scottie is a guy who can physically impose himself. And Scottie finished with 24 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, a block. But the main stat that you got to hear from Scottie Barnes tonight, 14 of 14 from the free throw line. That's a career best. And I've always said this, but Scottie, if he wanted to, could be an absolute free throw machine. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and break down every single time he drew a foul, but there were a couple times where I'm like, yes, man, this is exactly the type of physicality you need to play with consistently. And he's honestly done it all season. He hasn't got the benefit of the whistle every time. I think at some point it was like he hadn't gotten to the free throw line for 10 quarters in a row, which is insane for how physical he's played this season. I think the refs, have swallowed their whistle sometimes when it comes to Scottie. I don't really like to get into my officiating bag, though. But I think overall he did a great job of using his physicality. Let's break down some of those plays. So clutch situation here, another close game. A great job of Scottie. You know, both of these guys in Siakam and J Huff are going under. They're not respecting the jump shot. Doesn't mean you have to take the jump shot. And Scottie's done a really good job of that, not settling for these looks anymore. Instead, using the space that they give him to create a runway to get downhill. And that is what all the elite non-spacing guys do. And while Scottie has shot well, this is where he's at his best. Barreling his way to the basket, draws the foul, actually got the offensive rebound, then drew the foul, and he goes to the free throw line. Now, on the very next possession, the Raptors run a pin down for Brandon Ingram, with Scottie being the screener. And that actually creates a switch, right? Because they switch this action. Pascal picks him up, and instead it's now Mathurin who has to guard Scottie. So that is a very, very good opportunity for Scottie to get to the free throw line. This is against the smaller Mathurin. Mathurin's a good physical player, but he really is no match for a guy like Scottie, who does a great job of initiating the arm here to draw the foul. And so it's moments like that where you're like, yes, man, that's exactly what you need from Scottie Barnes, who was 5 of 12 from the field, but 14 of 14 from the free throw line. And by the way, just to mention, Brandon Ingram, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 11 of 23 shooting. They really leaned on him offensively. And again, on nights where they struggle out the gate offensively, everybody else, it is a lot like, hey, B.I., Scottie, save us, especially when there's no RJ Barrett. Emmanuel Quickley also struggled in this game. He was 6 of 19, 1 of 7 from 3, had a lot of good looks, just not drop. And we don't need to do this every single time he has a bad shooting game. He'll be okay. We've seen him have great shooting games. It's just, it was tough tonight for a lot of players on this Raptors roster, especially from the three-point line. I mean, they were 5 of 26 collectively. It wasn't just Quick. Nobody could hit a three. Mamu struggled in this game. He was 0 of 2, 7 rebounds, 3 of 8 from the field. Jamal Shed didn't have that same level of pizzazz and connection. You know, actually, funny enough, I feel like when one of those guys doesn't have it going, the other guy can't get it going as well. It's sort of this tandem that when they are both playing well, they are able to raise the ceiling of their bench. But unfortunately, Mamu wasn't able to get it going, wasn't knocking down his shots. And I thought Jamal, at the same time, because of that, wasn't able to get into his pick and roll bag as much as he has been usually. It's worth noting here also, Grady Dick, in the second quarter, fell really hard trying to chase a rebound, kind of banged his head on the floor. He did not return for the rest of the game, played 6 minutes. It seems as though they held him out of the game for precautionary reasons. I imagine he is going through concussion protocol. He was in the team picture after the game, and after Brandon Ingram's game winner, seemed like he was in good spirits, still flexing. So hopefully he's okay. And hopefully it's not too serious. And, obviously head injuries are always scary, but That's something to keep your eye on if you're kind of looking at the next couple of days for the Toronto Raptors. The guy who really cooked tonight and really, man, he was awesome. Led the team in plus 21 in 32 minutes. That is Jacoby Walter, who finished with 13 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, two steals, and 3 threes. Jacoby, once again, started in the second half. By the way, let me preface it with this. Colin Murray-Boyle started tonight instead of Jacoby Walter. They tried something else. Truthfully, that didn't work. I thought Murray-Boyle's, the spacing was kind of tight when he was on the floor, especially with that starting group. CMB only played 7.5 minutes. Got into some foul trouble quickly and didn't really get that much time afterwards. Curious to see how they utilize him moving forward, just because it feels like they are trying to figure out where he's best placed, what lineups he maximizes the most. I'm very curious to see how they do that, especially moving forward for a rookie who is like very talented, and definitely has a place on this team, especially defensively. Regardless, Jacoby started in the second half. He ended the first half. And so that 27-3 run that I was mentioning, a lot of that was with Jacoby Walter on the floor, who was magnificent in this game at just being like everything you want out of your fifth starter. A guy who doesn't need a ton of usage, who doesn't need a lot of on-ball opportunities, but when he gets the ball, maximizes it when he takes his shots, plays his tail off defensively. He's basically mastered the blind double thing that he does. He's been awesome. Let's talk about Jacoby. Doing all the little things. Ben Mathurin blows by on this drive. He steps up and takes the charge outside of the restricted area. Nothing works out on this play for the Raptors. Instead, he takes Pascal Siakam one-on-one on this drive, gets the reverse lay. Very tough. Good job of crashing the offensive glass off of the corner, getting the putback, and like I mentioned, the blind double. So as soon as Pascal Siakam turns here, this is the opportunity for Jacoby. Swipe or no swiping. That is exactly what Jacoby does. Steals this ball, Raptors are out and running. And like I mentioned, taking advantage of your opportunities. A wide open three here in the corner, maximizes, takes that shot, makes it. It's really important for guys who don't get a ton of shots to be able to make the shots that they actually get. A little bit later, off of a Brandon Ingram pinch post situation, swing, and Jacoby in the corner again. I like this in transition earlier. Just a good job relocating to the corner and knocking down this three as well. And so the corner was available for Jacoby tonight because of how much attention BI and Scottie were getting downhill. These are the shots, truthfully, dude, that you eventually want Grady Dick to be able to make. For all of the little great things that Grady also does, I thought his defense was good in the 6 minutes that he played. Had a couple of steals. It says he has 1 steal, 1 block, whatever. He had a couple of good defensive plays in this one. He's had a few good defensive moments throughout this win streak, and he's looked good off of drives. I actually thought the fact that Grady didn't play really hurt the bench. They weren't able to space the floor as much. He seeks so much attention, and so Mama wasn't able to get into his bag. Jamal wasn't able to get into his bag. There was just more pressure on those guys to be able to deliver, and they didn't. And so we'll see how that progresses, maybe if Grady misses time. But overall, Jacoby is kind of taking care of business here, right? He's maximizing his opportunity when he gets on the floor, and he's making it hard to not play him. If you're knocking down your threes, if you're playing defense, if you're doing all the little things like drawing charges, it's kind of hard not to play Jacoby Walter. And so if, RJ, we got an update today that RJ Barrett is going to miss a week and will be reevaluated in a week with this right knee sprain. It doesn't seem like he's sustained anything serious other than a sprain in his right knee. I think they will go back to Jacoby Walter as the starter when they play the Hornets on Saturday and then the Knicks on Sunday. And I think until RJ comes back, I believe Jacoby will continue to be the starter. That is just, he works so well with that unit. He makes them really work well together just because he's a good 3-and-D player. Anyways, on the bright side of things, Jacoby Walter has been awesome. He clearly is turning his season around after what was a really tough start. And the Raptors are winning basketball games, folks. They are figuring it out. They are grinding out games, which, in my opinion, is the indicator of a really good basketball team. Doesn't matter the level of competition, even though I just praised the Pacers and, why they're better than you might think. Overall, the fact that this group grinds out wins like that is a testament to how good they are. Raptors win. They go to the quarterfinals of the NBA Cup. They will host a quarterfinals game, which is very exciting. We will definitely be in the arena for that. Be on the lookout for stuff coming out for NBA Cup stuff. I will also be in Las Vegas for the Athletic. So if the Raptors do make it to Vegas, definitely be on the lookout for stuff that we'll be cooking up there. Folks, as always, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Shout out Brandon Ingram for the game winner. Can I just, before we head out of here, what a game and what a team. And also, what a moment for Brandon Ingram. Obviously over Pascal Siakam is poetic in its own regard. But just for a guy who, was really at a low point value-wise in his career. I mean, the Raptors got him for Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, and 1 first-round pick. This is an all-star level player, a guy who was a most improved level player. Obviously, has dealt with his fair share of injuries that caused that value to be like that. But just a very, very, it's good that he's proven people wrong. And I will be the first to admit that initially I wasn't as high on the trade because of this was before he even got traded, truthfully, because I didn't know what the exact trade would be. I thought RJ Barrett was going to be included, and I thought that would probably end up being too much. But I very quickly changed my mind, and shout out to Trey and Sampson for kind of making me change my mind. They really put me on and said yo, this is the way it could work. And I very quickly got sold on it after just watching some Brandon Ingram tape. This is sort of the thing that happens when guys fall out of the conversation for NBA fans and for NBA media. They end up becoming underrated. And I think Brandon Ingram, to many like me, just had become underrated. And all I had to do in February, once they traded for Ingram, was watch his highlights for 10, 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I understand. I am reminded now of how good Brandon Ingram can be. And I think this whole start to his Raptors tenure is a huge reminder of how talented of a player Brandon Ingram is. Yeah, I think he's been awesome. And he is even better than I expected him to be. And it's crazy because he's not even 100%. I hope you guys don't go around being like, oh, look, another media guy who messed up, who was underrated in that trade. I've seen that tweet a couple times. I wasn't like that. I wasn't that down and out on the trade. But I did need some convincing. And it wasn't too long before I was convinced. Because, talent play. A very, very big talent play. And what I mean by guys like that become underrated, once guys get into a trade conversation, this also happened to Pascal Siakam. Actually, Raptors fans should understand this very well. This exact thing happened to Pascal Siakam, and that's why he's an Indiana Pacer. It got to the point where the collective consensus was very low on Pascal. And so a guy who wanted a contract extension, who was a former All-Star, former most improved player, had dealt with a couple of injuries here and there, but for the most part, had a healthy career, and also needed a new change of scenery. That kind of got used to the detriment of the Raptors, where they ended up with a different trade than they probably could have got before. I vehemently agree with that notion. The fact that they probably could have got more for Pascal Siakam if they traded him earlier on. Regardless, hindsight is 2020. Doesn't matter. None of that stuff is of any importance anymore. Brandon Ingram is a Toronto Raptor, et cetera, et cetera. I only say that to say players become underrated when they are not on the radar of people, when they get thrown into trade discussions constantly, and people have to poke and prod at their bad things that they do on the floor. Look at Lauri Markkanen. You know, last year had a down season. Value was in the gutter. This year, putting up 40 balls, value all the way back up. It's very fickle the way we talk about trade value and about overall talent in the NBA. I'm like part of that, you know, as a person who covers all of the NBA. It's something that I try to catch in myself. And the Brandon Ingram thing is a good lesson in that. The Pascal Siakam thing is a good lesson in that. I hope we can all learn something after all of this. But either way, folks, Brandon Ingram is a Toronto Raptor. Enjoy. The Raptors are winning. Enjoy. The NBA Cup is the Raptors. I'm not gonna square. Screw it. Let's win it all. Folks, we'll see you next time for another Film Room. I've blabbled for way too much tonight. It's been an exciting one. I was screaming in this room when Ingram hit it. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. I'll see you guys for the next one. Take care.